Hi, I'm Ariel Patricia of Sacred Stories Publishing and Media, and you're watching P3 on Rise Above TV.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. You're watching P3, the place where we feature individuals who have tapped into their power, passion, and purpose. I'm your host, Janie Terrazas, and today I am very grateful and excited to have the lovely Ariel Patricia. She's the founder of Sacred Stories Publishing and Media, and she is one of the lovely women that encouraged me to do one of my projects called the Sacral Circle, and that's where my podcast airs. Thank you so much, Ariel, for being with us today.
Yeah, Janie, I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
We met a few years ago, and you have been in this line of work, empowering people, educating people about how to live healthier, mindfully, and deliberately and intentionally for quite some time. I'm curious to know how and where your journey got started and what power, passion, and purpose mean to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually coming up on 10 years now. So, and it almost seems like a cliche kind of event, but when I turned 50, I had that life event that, the universe kind of comes and shakes you by the shoulders and turns you upside down and spins you around and says, pay attention. You're not paying attention, and, we have something we need you to do or want you to do. And so I went through that, I went through an unexpected divorce, which kind of turned me on my head. I sunk into a depression, went through menopause, um, started reaching out for answers because I found myself on my bedroom floor in a heap more than I, was upright, and reached out for answers, and really some real spiritual answers started coming. I asked my angels for help, and they definitely showed up. All while I was raising two teenage daughters, and all of this propelled me based on what was happening to kind of take the proverbial leap off the cliff, left my career, started writing my first book, and didn't know what actually I was really doing. I just knew that I needed to follow my heart and see where it led. And that actually led to me entering seminary. I spent 2 years in seminary. I'm an ordained interfaith minister. And Sacred Stories and Publishing Media today is an ongoing evolution of my passion and what I know to be one of my purposes to help share our stories, our connection, our lived experiences and wisdom in order to help others.
And, where did that altruistic side come from, do you think?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I learned empathy based on my deep pain. And I don't know that I've always felt like I was a very caring person, but I don't think I really got empathy until I really found myself. I was one of what I considered almost like the walking wounded. I was really traumatized. I mean, really deep core wounds I write in one of my books that it just was like these wounds I didn't even know I had that just got ripped open. And they were just laid bare, and I didn't even know what to do with them. And so I was like one of the walking wounded. I was functioning. I had kids to raise. I had to go to work, but I really wasn't functioning. And when anybody would ever ask, how are you? I'd say, fine, I'm fine. Isn't that what you say? You say you're fine, right? And then one day I received a text from one of a male cousin, out in California, and he's always been like kind of this real macho kind of guy. And I never really thought, had any deep feelings. I just never did. And he's like, how are you? And I said, I'm fine. And he'd have been divorced a few years earlier. And he said, well, how are you really? And there was just a little bit of an opening. And I said, it's a little harder than I thought. And his response back to me, Janie, just kind of blew me out of the water. He said, and I remember it to this day, he responded, may peace find you and wrap you like a warm blanket. And I was like sitting there reading this, and I was like, what did he just say? Like, first of all, that it came from him, didn't expect. And then two, it was just such this beautiful outreaching of kind of like, yeah, I know, and you're going to be okay. That what I realized was that he understood. And when I realized that he understood, because I never thought anybody understood, I just thought nobody could really know how I was feeling, because it just felt so bad. And when I realized that he understood, I realized that means he experienced trauma and pain in a similar way. And when I realized that, I realized, wow, if he has, then other people have. And my whole kind of way of looking at the world literally shifted at that moment. And my old kind of pull yourself up by the bootstraps and move on and shake it off, I was gone. And I started seeing the world actually not as walking wounded, but as people who were dealing with stuff that they could use maybe some support and some, more compassion and help.
When you said you were kind of describing that shaking it off and sort of like, kind of toughen up. I believe you were in the military, correct?
Yes, yes.
So
I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so I was just wondering, I'm sure a lot of that programming came from being in the military. And then, of course, whatever you had endured when you were like younger.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the military definitely cemented it. The other thing is I never really acknowledged or dealt with any childhood type wounding. I was of the people that said, well, it wasn't that bad. My parents did the best they could.
Yes.
They loved me, yada, yada, yada. But I was a kid that was always crying. I was always crying. And I remember as a child, I was always crying. And it was kind of like, you're too sensitive. You're too this, you're too that. Stop crying.
Yeah.
And I don't ever remember anybody going, why are you crying? Are you okay? How can I help?
Yeah.
I never remember being just comforted in any way. It was like, oh, she's crying again kind of thing.
Like
So
you were like a burden. And
yes,
and
yes.
so you were never, there was no one ever there to hold space for you, to make you feel it was okay for you to feel what you were feeling. And so
Yeah.
you probably always just felt like a bad girl or something,
I just felt like there was something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was the too sensitive one, and so a lot of my behaviors that I realized as an adult, it's so funny, really came from learned behaviors and ways that I responded, as a young child. And it took a lot for me to acknowledge, because the word trauma to me seems so like big. It's a big word. And I didn't feel that I had earned the right to use that word, because my trauma wasn't maybe as bad as some others. Um, and and I just want to say, like, that was huge when I realized that, what, it doesn't matter, because who I came in as this world as, what's mine to do in this world. When my core wounding was triggered, it was bad. And I don't know if it's of this lifetime or previous lifetime, like, I don't know, but it doesn't matter, because what I realize is it's still, it, it's still important to be comforted and healed and acknowledged. And anybody who's feeling that way, we don't have to compare traumas. We just have to be able to show up for each other and say it's okay. Your feelings matter, and how can I help?
Yeah, and just that one person that you said, it was a cousin, correct, that had reached out to you. They always say, even a child who's been through a ton of trauma, if they just have one person in their life, in their journey, whether it be a teacher or something, they have a better percentage of sort of coming out of that dark space and really making something of themselves. It's that one person to believe in you when you feel all alone and you don't believe in yourself. And through the creation of Sacred Stories, you've attracted other individuals that are using their lives to also share their testimonies and what they did to help them thrive, and helping people through their healing journeys. What has that been like for you, and what self-care practices have you implemented with yourself? Because there's a lot of different balls that you juggle.
Yeah, yeah. Well, on any given day, I may answer that differently. It's been profound. It's been sometimes I think sometimes when we're very outward facing all the time, we don't really acknowledge or really give a lot of thought to maybe the ripple effect or maybe how we may have supported people. So a lot of what I do, it's not administrative, but there's the larger business aspect of a lot that I do as well. And I don't always, I'm always not on the receiving end of knowing maybe it's helped make an impact. You know what I mean? And I think that's very common for a lot of people who are working and they're outward facing, helping others. But every now and then I'll get that email or I'll get the call or I'll get something that will really kind of recenter and share that in some way that I was helpful to them and in their journey or in the work that they're doing. And those things kind of make it all worthwhile where we're like, okay, it's similar to your Sacral Circle podcast. Like, we talked about before, like I'm just blown away by that work. And I know that every person, the guests that you have, and every person that listens to it is profoundly helped in this world. And they then help others, even if they just show up differently, maybe they become the cousin for that person who needs it because they have a little bit of an insight into like, wow, I never thought about it that way before. That never occurred to me. And they make a choice to be different for someone else. That's massive. That's massive. So that's what kind of one of the things that sustains me on the days that sometimes it just feels like, a lot. That is sustaining.
Yeah, I have those days sometimes where I will never end up doing it. Sometimes it just means I need to take like a good break for a while. And I'm very good about balancing and hacking self-care into my days and things like that. But there are times when it's like overwhelming, like the vision and the mission. And then I just have these days where it's like, what if I just take down my website and just stop all the shows and stop the podcast and pull Rise Above TV, and then I could just coast. And then it's like, no, because my purpose will come just knocking again. It's like you can't run away from it. You know what I mean? I'm here to use this big mouth for a reason. And I don't think I could go very long without it, but I know that feeling of overwhelm. And when you do feel overwhelmed, what tends to be like a good go-to for you?
Yeah. It's so funny because just a few days ago, actually, I read a quote by Glennon Doyle, an author who wrote, a book, I think it's called Untamed. And it said something, I'm paraphrasing, but it said something about, it's okay to quit. And so that caught my attention because there was one of those overwhelming days. And then it said, I quit every day. I quit every day. I say, okay, like I kind of turn it off and I do what I need to do and whatever. And then the next day, but I start again. And so just knowing that we can quit, not, that we quit the whole mission, but that we quit every day incrementally to just kind of say, okay, I'm good. Today I'm good. It's complete. And now I'm going to do for me, whether that is, I'm going to go, share some time with a friend or do some yoga or sit on the couch and eat potato chips, like whatever it is. I know that every day that I can quit. If I choose to quit, I quit. And but the next day, we begin again. And that is very, it almost sounds like it's kind of negative in a way, but it's really not. It's actually very empowering because I think sometimes if we're really working really hard on, like you say, the larger mission, the mission and vision, because we want to be of service, we can feel almost powerless because it feels so big. So when we take that control of saying, well, no, but right now I'm choosing to do this, and that empowers us, which fuels us to keep on, keep it on.
Yes, because then we're able to do that rest and that restoration and that quitting, so to speak, that stopping and putting that aside without any guilt, without any shame, without any regret, without any worry. And that's when when we are really able to enjoy that space that we create for ourselves, whatever that is, however long that may be. But it's, just showing your own self and showing God that you care enough about yourself to do that. one thing that really helped me when you were mentioning the idea of like, when not everybody is here to maybe help and reach in the manner in which we're desiring to do, but just showing up as a kind human being in itself is purposeful. You know, that is doing your part, is, you know, being that change that you want to see in the world. And but going back to those that may be watching that are humanitarians, you know, and have that stewardship heart, and they're just like dialed in and they're like, I want to help everybody. I want everybody to feel happy and joyful and well, you know. One time when I was feeling that feeling, God gave me a really great piece of advice, and it was so beautiful that I just have to share it with you. So it was like, number one, he said, if you make one person laugh or giggle or help them feel better, that person is the universe. So you make the whole universe laugh. When you do nothing and you don't post anything, you don't share anything, you're just being, and you're just with yourself and you're not doing anything. He said, when you're doing nothing, it's something. It's something because you're being. You're just beingness, being here and choosing to be here and not pulling the plug on yourself is enough. And so remember that, you know, it's like you taking care of yourself today is helping the world, essentially what he was trying to help me understand. And I was like, hey, that's a cool way of looking at it.
Absolutely. And if I can just add some, you know, two like quick notes on that, because what also was really overwhelming to me the first few years, probably up until very recently, was somehow I thought I had to kind of do it all by myself. You know what I mean? Somehow I had to save the world. Now that's kind of crazy, right? But I think when our passion and I think when spirit moves through us and we receive these downloads and all this amazing stuff is happening, you know, we feel that we have this responsibility. And it took me a while, and it's kind of silly to say, but it took me a while to realize I didn't have to save 8 billion people in this world all on my own, you know? I mean, right? But we make this larger than, but when we come together, like we're coming together right now, and we collaborate and we work together, and we realize that all together, you know, there's a lot of people who are doing great work, and all together, you know, we're making a difference. It takes a tremendous amount of the pressure, because I think what gets in our way the most is our own self-imposed pressure, actually more than any maybe even outside pressure, but our own self-imposed pressure. So when I could kind of take that off and be like, oh, wait, no, wait, there's other people doing great work. Doesn't have to just be me. You know, that was super helpful. And then the other thing I do is I just go to the park and I go to the trees and I just kind of be, you know, and a lot of people say like be in nature, and that's certainly helpful, but I do, you know, very deep meditative practices kind of with the trees and breathing with them and light work with them. And so even as you were saying, even by ourselves, we make a difference just being. We do, especially if we make conscious choices and effort to kind of share, you know, really positive energy, really, you know, doing light work or other ways that we may speak about it, because that really affects. So even like you said, like making somebody giggle or laugh, that's energetically, right, lifting the energy. And we can do that by ourselves through, you know, through some types of meditative practices and work that can be so much more powerful than us toiling away at our desk for 8 hours a day. We can go take a half an hour with the trees and make a huge difference, positive difference as well.
I love that you said that, because I'm a big nature baby too. I always say nature nurtures. And yes, it's nice to go for walks in a park, but it's a whole different thing when you go and you put your feet in the dirt. Or there's this one park and it has this massive tree stump and it's angled perfectly for you to sit like Indian style on it. And all the trees are out of the way, so the sun like beams right on it. Girl, oh my gosh, I go sit on that thing and I'm like, I feel like I'm getting powered up, got solar energy. And she's like, the tree is like giving me all this like beautiful intelligence, you know, and there's this like synergy of love going back and forth. And I'm like, I love the planet, you know?
No, but that's so powerful. Like we can kind of joke about it and stuff, but that is so powerful, and that what you're receiving and then in turn sharing,
Uh-huh, for
major,
sure.
like major. We can't, I don't think we can underestimate how important that is.
Absolutely. And you know what? Speaking of that, it's making me think of imagination. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on imagination, because I feel like imagination is a power tool that we've been given, and it's tied to like vision and our creativity. But, you know, how do you feel imagination plays into your life, and how has it made it better or empowered it?
Do you mean imagination, like from a visioning
Uh-huh.
perspective?
Yeah, like like right now when I was kind of like saying how, I was taking in, and the thing is these things are actually happening. We are taking photons into the body, I understand physics and physiology and like my blood and my cells so well, so I can actually use that understanding to create pictures of what's taking place, which in my mind, in my world, and from the studies of intention and everything, it really does seem to like power up whatever's
Right.
taking place. And
Absolutely.
so like in meditation or anything like that, like would you say your imagination is pretty vivid? And I feel like it is.
Yeah, so I have a problem with the word imagination because
Okay,
I
yeah,
feel, well, only because I feel it's very misunderstood, because
it
I feel
is.
people will then think, well, then it's not real. You're just imagining it. So when I'm in meditation or I'm with the trees or I'm, it's really like it's more of a visioning. I would say it's more really truly a visioning, and not a visioning of, oh, what is my business's vision and what do I want to create with my business? It really is, it's so real, it really is real. So I think we need another word that isn't imagination, or even vision, because in the visions, in that power, do you have it? Do you
I'm hearing visionation.
Oh, I like that. We should use that, right? Because that's really what's happening. So when I'm with the trees, for example, and I'm receiving, light, like I got blasted a couple weeks ago by one tree with this beautiful green energy light. Like I just stood there and received it. And it was as real as I'm sitting here with you right now, right? So that's not imagination, so, or when you're sitting and you're receiving the solar energy, or we're sending it out, or whatever we see when we close our eyes, or what we feel, it's not imagination, it's really real.
Yes.
It's as real, it's just real in a different type of a sense, so yes, mine is vivid. It's
Right.
vivid, and
You
it's,
have a vivid visionation.
I have a vivid, this, yes, I can't even say that. I have a vivid, say that three
Well,
times
we're gonna
fast,
have to think
right?
of another word because people are gonna get tongue twisted with it. But yeah, it's that vision, and that's actually one. There's a thing. Buddhists have the eightfold path,
Mhm.
and it's vision, intention, speech, action, livelihood, mindfulness, effort, and concentration. And I love that. And there's no particular order, but when one really starts to understand what vision is,
Right.
then life starts to get really interesting, especially when you start using it with intention. And when you start understanding the power of vision, you start to become more accountable and responsible with it,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. Because it's very real. It's very, very real. And I guess I just want to say that. So even if it's just like, oh no, I just had my eyes closed and I just saw some stuff and it was, I have a great imagination. It's it's not your imagination.
Oh my
It's
God, you like blew my mind today. I have never ever even considered that, because you're right. You need to have the understanding and the meaning behind it. And when people think of imagination, they think of this like dream,
right.
and there's a, like earlier when you were talking about seeing the green, there's a spectrum of light and sound, and our eyes and ears can pick up so much. But when you tap into this other intuition, in that intuitive, that quantum field, and you really believe in what's taking place, it's amazing the things that you can see that maybe others can't.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
I think, and I think we feel it. I think we feel it. And I think what I would ask people or offer to people is to know that you can feel it as well. You can see it as well. So when you're feeling things, when your body tingles, you're feeling things, or you just know something, or you do see something, even with your eyes closed, that that it's really real, and to allow yourself to know that it's real, and not to just discount, well, no, I'm sure it was this or sure it was that, because it is, and it is that the intuitive senses, and that's really, I guess, more what we're really talking about. So we do have a name for it, right? It is our intuitive sense that we're tapping into, and that is just as real as the five senses that that we use every day.
Exactly. And I think too, when you tap into your power, passion, and purpose, I feel like all of our senses are like turned up a few notches. It's like food and music and just everything tastes better because you're able to enjoy, la vida. It's like you get it. You understand that there's some heaviness and some chaos in the world, but we don't have to be of it, and I really appreciate that you're one of the human beings on the planet that's doing their best to spread light and joy and empowerment and inspiration. Are there any last words you would like to share? You've already shared so many beautiful things and blew my mind. I'm going to be thinking about that word for a while now and changing how I use it, with people sometimes, or at least giving them a better idea of like, hey, it's not just a dream. Anything else that you would like to share? And please let them know how they can connect with you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, I would just like to let everyone know that they matter, they really do matter, and that what's important to them matters, their feelings matter, their passion and purpose matters. And like you said before, it doesn't matter if you have a vision that you want to, be on a world stage, or if you just want to be, the best, kindest neighbor or mom, or whatever position you have, or job if you have one, and whatever level feels right to you and works for you, then that's perfect. And just keep remembering that, that you matter, and we need you. And yes, so people can just go to sacredstories.com, and that's our website, and that's the best jumping off place to connect with us.
Awesome. And I know that you're on social media too, so they can find you on there as well. Thank you so much again for being with us, Ariel. I appreciate you so much, and continued blessings on all of your endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you, Janie. And keep doing what you're doing, because it's phenomenal. And the Sacral Circle podcast, honestly, if listeners haven't heard it yet, if you haven't listened, tune in. It's one of the best I've ever listened to, and it's really powerful, profound. And Janie, please keep doing the good work you're doing.
Thank you so much for encouraging me to do the Sacral Circle. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
And thank you everyone for tuning in to Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. Your likes, shares, and follows are greatly appreciated because they help spread the love. Be sure to check out our YouTube and podcast channel for more mindful content. Tune in next week for another power-packed episode of P3, when you'll meet another individual who's tapped into their power, passion, and purpose. Till next time, peace be in us.